The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends, everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast podcast, where two therapist coaches, aka theracoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
Episode 10. Why can't I be myself? 3 ways to ditch the mask and unleash your magnificence.
Ta-da! It just feels like it had to be.
It's almost like it's now becoming a game for what's the most elaborate title that we can have. The most outlandish, outrageous title.
Well, I'm kind of upset that we've dropped the swear words, but I'm sure we can come back to them at some point.
We'll have to. I'm sure we can put some fucks and shits back in there. Can't be that difficult.
Oh, I love it.
Creative use of profanity.
Absolutely. Always.
So, why can't I be myself? Why can't I be myself?
No idea.
Well, the questions I asked myself, because I'll often start with, what does it mean to me? So I started with, well, what does it mean being myself, as well as what does it mean wear a mask? There were 2 aspects of that for me.
It got deep real quick.
Well, for me, being myself, words I came up with were things like open, honest, at ease, free to be weird as well. That's what came out. But also trust, sense of being safe, and belonging as well was something that came to me when I thought about being myself.
Do you know, it's really strange. I didn't really focus on that bit.
Do you know?
No. It's really funny. It's only coming to me as you're saying it. I'm going, oh, I guess, yeah. Why can't I be myself? Because I don't fucking give myself permission to be myself. That's why. I guess that would be the reason why I can't be myself.
Right, end the episode right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Done, dusted.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Saved you 50 more minutes.
I'll invoice you later. Oh dear.
Well, what bit did you like? Because you know what I normally start asking is, what does it mean to you?
Mm.
So what bit did you focus on then in that case?
I really focused on my experience of wearing the mask, and I guess the central thing for me was trying to hide my vulnerability at all times and hide myself. So I guess that's why I couldn't be myself, because I didn't feel like I was not even good enough, but I felt like it wasn't okay. So I kind of focused there. That was really the big thing for me, but just that not feeling okay. But I realized I have a lot of love for the person that used to wear the mask, a lot, just because I know how scared she was of being seen and not being loved. So I guess, yeah, that's kind of, well, as you know, I always focus it in on love. So I guess that was my central, stop that shit.
Didn't even roll my eyes this time.
Nearly. Yeah.
The loving eye roll.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You can't just attach the word loving to everything.
I absolutely fucking can.
Okay. Okay.
It's not a very loving response, Amy.
Oh dear. It's just going to be one of those episodes. I can
That's literally every episode. Every episode is one of those episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I guess actually being myself is being the love. And when I was in a space where I felt like love was something I had to get, then obviously I couldn't be myself because I thought I had to be something to get the love.
Mm. Well, when I asked myself what does wearing a mask mean to me, some of the words that came up were things like hiding, pretending, avoiding, scared of rejection, scared of consequence, conditional acceptance, restricted, being held back, not okay with the perceived rules. But then the big thing that struck me was about playing a role.
Hmm.
And then I thought about it and I was like, actually, aren't we always playing some kind of role?
Yeah.
Because when I thought about it, I was like, when do I feel most comfortable being myself? It's like, well, when I'm around friends I really trust, I feel safe with. And then I thought, and also, when I'm in the coaching or the therapy chair, as it were, when I'm in the room with a client, and I thought, well, then am I really myself when I'm with them though? Because there are probably still things that I would share, with certain friends or family that I wouldn't necessarily share with a client. But what I came to is that I like who I am when I'm in that chair.
How lovely is that?
Well, then this is what it led me to thinking about is the difference between, because you could say in a way I'm holding some things back, right? When I'm in the chair, as it were. Um, that sounds rather ominous. When I'm in the room with the club, well, when I'm playing that role as coach or therapist, yeah, I like who I am. I'm comfortable there, but I'm probably still holding some things back, or at least I don't know, my mind's in a certain place. There are certain facets of me, arguably, that are there that aren't there at other places. Like if I'm with a bunch of my friends, I'm probably not going to be having the same level of conversation over certain things, or at least with certain interactions. If somebody says a should statement, I'm not going to be like, oh, what's that about to them, or I'd
Yeah.
probably lose a lot of my friends very quickly. Not that I haven't done that. I have done that in the past. And yeah, anyway. Where I got to with it though was that I think it's a difference for me between choice and fear. It's like, am I choosing to play this role and therefore be this way and not be a certain way, or is it out of, am I suppressing? Do I feel like I'm suppressing part of myself? Like, am I holding back out of choice, if you like, or am I holding back out of fear?
Got it. Yeah. That was interesting. Because I guess the choice for me came down to love or fear.
Right.
So do I hold aspects of myself back because of fear? Or do I bring aspects of myself because of love? And I guess so when I think about going into the therapy or coaching kind of environment, I feel like I bring the truest part of my vulnerability with me. But I don't need to bring every aspect. And I guess in there is the thing about without my mask, I guess I don't bring the fullest experience of me to every situation anyway, just the aspects that are relevant to that situation. So I guess that's kind of what I notice more, that if I think of it as bringing my vulnerability, that comes to every situation I'm in to varying degrees. So I guess that for me is the biggest difference between wearing and not wearing my mask and being myself, is the knowingness that I control the response to where I'm at, and it isn't impacted by what the other person is doing. And that was my trap, the shift from wearing the mask and not feeling okay to show my vulnerability to not really having to wear the mask and being okay with my vulnerability. The shift was that for me. It's not that I choose to not bring aspects of myself to those situations. It's just that it just depends what part of myself that situation requires.
Yeah, which makes sense to me. And I think, you know, what I hear in that is what I was talking about in terms of if it's a choice. Like if I'm choosing what's appropriate to bring to this situation, then that's fair. And you know, from the outside, somebody could say, well, you know, that's not the you that I know. But then if my experience of that is, well, if it's a choice, then I'm not going to be there. Well, it's very different to me being there, being like, oh, I feel like I'm holding myself back. I feel like I want to be someone else in this situation, or I feel like I should be being differently.
Yeah, which is a very different kind of thing. I guess when we're in situations, I guess it's responding to what's required within us and whoever else is there, right? It's kind of how it works.
Yeah. And then the judgment or lack of judgment of that.
Yeah.
So what was your first way?
Well,
What was your first mask ditching, unleashing?
I think for me, it's the journey to self-love, because how can I be okay with showing the real me to anybody else if I can't stand the real me? And that was a big part of the reasoning behind the mask in the first place, because I didn't like myself. I didn't really understand what being myself meant. Yeah, and I couldn't really tolerate the person that I was. So then obviously my thinking was that neither can anybody else. So I kind of had to be really kind to myself and like myself and get to know myself. So it was really in that building the relationship with me that I was able to look kindly at aspects of myself without just ripping myself to shreds instantly. So it was just that whole process of growing that relationship and the patience and the love and all of those things so that I could meet myself in that space first.
And what was your journey with that?
I kind of guess, I wish I could say that I just ripped the whole thing off and it was just like, yes, everything's great.
Oh, there's my face.
Yeah, there we are. This is all of me in my glory. It was slow and it was painful. It was like, oh God. Stop that shit, David. Stop it.
How to instill hope in your listeners.
It's the truth. God damn it. It's the truth.
That's made my week. I'm done now.
Well, it was slow and it was one of those things, I don't know, like, it was like taking the edge off the plaster off very, very slowly.
We could just rip it off, but just make it extra painful.
Yes. Because I had to be okay with kind of doing that step by step and not just going full force with it, because that would have just made me retreat. Because it would have just felt too exposing. So it was like it will speak to one of my other points, but it was an experimentation. It's like I had to be able to see that it gave me a different result, which then gave me the confidence. If I did it once, then gave me the confidence to go, okay, I've got the proof that I can get a different result. So I can now go and do it again, rather than just holding on to the negative experiences I've had. So I had to be able to see it, to kind of go, okay, actually, this person was okay when I took the mask off, or this aspect wasn't shunned in the way that I thought it would be. So it was that kind of process.
Yeah, and this was actually one of my points that didn't make it to the list, because I did a U this time and just had about, I don't know, 9 points or something, but didn't choose all of them.
Just need a second to process that David has 9 points, and usually he's ripping me.
Well, I actually still did condense them down to 3 rather than just randomly pick them. This is my only defence.
There is no defence.
And yet I will still defend it.
I
know. Something I'd put down was give a bit and see what happens. And I often use this example with clients when I'm talking to them about building trust, because a question I get: how do you build trust? It's like, the secret to building trust. Do you want to know the secret? And what? It's like, trust.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, go first. But you see it at a party or whatever, or different at a party, because if people are drinking or on drugs, it often happens a lot more quickly. But maybe a party when everyone's still fairly sober, or at the bus stop even. Like, people start with, they give a little bit. They talk about what's going on around them, or they'll talk about, or then they move up a bit, and what do you do? And it's sharing a bit back and forth, and then people will leave little hooks of, and they'll mention about their kids, or they'll mention about something about the job, or they'll some interest they've got, and then it's further into sharing with each other until they get more comfortable. You don't tend to get that. It's like if someone sits next to you on the bus and turns around and goes, "So, what are your hopes and aspirations for life?" and you'd be like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah, run.
A bit quick. I mean, it does happen sometimes with people, right? But often when they're at a party and they're high or drunk, they sit down and all the barriers are down, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're like my soulmate," and then don't talk to each other the next day.
That sounded like an experience you've had.
Actually, more often than not, I would be the one that would be like thinking that, oh yeah, they're going to be thinking the same thing, and then realise that, oh, there's not that level of connection there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's move it on swiftly.
But it's that for me, it's like calibration, right? It's like, if I give you a little bit, is that okay? Like, am I okay with that? Am I comfortable with that? And in a way also, like, is that the right person to be sharing this with? Like, can they accept that of me, or are they staring at me like I've just shot their grandmother or something?
Yeah, because that was one of mine, actually. It's like, the right people really helps. Really helps to try and take off the mask in front of people that are not the right people, because they've got their own shit and they're hiding behind a mask. It's like, yeah, from experience, I can say that doesn't work as well as I thought it might. So yeah, I guess it's that.
One of the other ones. I can see why this is helpful now, having a list of ones you didn't plan to use. A question that I brought up was, am I in the wrong pond?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I spoke to that too.
Yeah,
because I guess when you have your mask on, you're projecting a certain thing into the world, which is inevitably the experience you're going to get back. So then I know I definitely ended up in the wrong pond, because I kept projecting a self that wasn't the self that I was. So then obviously what I attracted in return was also not the thing I wanted. So yeah.
Got what you asked for, in a way.
Yes, I got what I asked for, and that's what happens.
Well, I worked with a client a while ago, and she seemed to be in the wrong pond at work. Everything was pointing towards that. The way she talked about, the way she was with her team, the disconnection and everything, and the way, just the whole dynamic. But the way she was seeing it is that it was something about her. Now, in a way, though, she did feel like she was kind of wearing a mask or kind of holding herself back. But interestingly, what happened was, as she then started to come out of her shell more and, stand up for herself, actually, that then she got massive pushback from the rest of the team, and that made her be like, yeah, I am in the wrong pond. And she ended up actually changing jobs. So you could say, in a way, her holding herself back was actually like wisdom in action, really. There's something in her going, maybe sharing myself here in this context is not the best idea. Like I said, she'd had in her mind that it was about her, but of course then when she went against that, then she got that evidence that was like, oh, yeah, maybe things would be better elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which they turned out to be, interestingly enough.
Yeah. And I guess therein lies the bit about trust and trusting that. Because I know that when there's aspects of myself that I'm not showing, or it's difficult for me to be vulnerable, then it's like, maybe it is the environment that I'm in. Maybe actually wisdom is going, this isn't the place to show that, because it's not going to be received in the way that I would like it to be received. I guess there's a knowingness in that, and a trust in yourself. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and I think, in my experience, I've been in places before where I thought I was holding myself back, but I don't know, when I think back about my experience, it's often been more of a problem if I felt like I hadn't got somewhere where I could be myself. Like now I feel I can be, I don't know, I feel more at home in certain places, like with certain friends and connections than I might have done in the past. And so that sense of not feeling at home, if I felt I had to play a certain role, maybe that showed up as more of a problem, or maybe it was in my mind that, like, now that I know, now I feel okay being myself around certain people. It's like it's okay if I'm not around others, and I know now that that's not because I'm just holding myself back for a particular, for something about me. Sometimes it's quite, it's contextual, it's appropriate. Like I'm not necessarily going to start sharing my life story with the dental receptionist, for example. Maybe I will do at some point, but it's just not felt appropriate so far. But that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's the thing. It's not like taking the mask off or being in okayness with the vulnerability means that I'm going to go and be like that with every single human being, like in a full on way. Like with some people, I know that I can bring more of that than I can with other people. I guess in that, it's like, how am I honoring myself right now? Am I honoring myself in bringing my truth? Or would I be dishonoring myself to just kind of let it all out and be that person right now? So I guess it, kind of comes back to that. Really knowing yourself and understanding your process in the moment.
Well, that nicely leads on to my first actual point that I'd planned to say.
Have we not done one of your actual points yet? Oh my god.
No, I just used the backup list.
Oh, you see? Liking the backup list now.
My prioritized backup list, I'll have you know. My first one was, who do I want to be here? As a question to ask myself, who do I want to be here? So being clear about, like, how do I want to show up in whatever space it is? Like whether it's at work or with friends or whatever it is. Like if I feel I can't be myself, like what would being myself look like in this context? And I suppose in a way, like I was saying, like do you really want to feel comfortable sharing your entire life story and sexual history with the receptionist at the dentist, or the cashier? Maybe you do, but my sense is possibly not. So yeah, that's where I was coming at with that, like, being clear on who you want to be able to be. And I know, something that came to me when I was thinking about this was, there was a point where I was very comfortable talking to prospective clients who'd contact me, and clients when they come to my house, when I'd work with them. I was quite comfortable talking to them about who I was and what I did in that context. Yet then when I started to go out networking, I suddenly realized that I wasn't particularly comfortable talking about who I was and what I did. And I started to think, maybe that's something wrong with me. I should be doing this, I should be doing that. in a way, it was as simple as I didn't know how to have that conversation there with that audience. Like it didn't seem to me. I don't know whether it's not that it didn't seem appropriate to do it the same way. I think that it was a different conversation, one that I'd not really had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, who do I want to be here?
I like that. I think that's really useful because it helps people to, like, it's a process. This is by creation. So it's about that awareness, I guess, and bringing that awareness rather than, it's almost my next point, but rather than just kind of giving away all levels of control and going, this is just what I am. It's like, there's a process that goes behind it, a conscious process.
Well, yeah, and that's like I was saying when I was reflecting. The real thing that came up for me is about the kind of the role or the context, and I realised it can be very different. And in some ways, I think it can be a loaded term because some people, I think we can confuse the role with the mask as if it's a bad thing. But like I said, do my clients want me to be the same person that I am with my mates? Probably not, and vice versa.
No, absolutely, I get that.
My mates definitely don't want me to coach and therapize them without their permission.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That doesn't work well. Yeah. No, I get that. So I guess it leads into my next one. Is this my second one? I don't even know.
Maybe, yes, I don't know. We're making up as we go along, so whatever.
Yeah, I get to design who I wish to be in this world. And I think the reason I picked that, and it kind of goes along with own your shit, because I kept myself in that place for a really long time, believing that this was the only way that I could be and there's nothing I could do. And that kind of made it easier. Right, so I couldn't own that. It was just like, oh, well, this is just how I am. And in that, it was really asking myself the question, what is the fear? What am I really afraid of? And I guess the fear, in the end, was something I don't control anyway, which is how other people respond to me. And I can't control that. So whether I wear the mask or not wear the mask, where I used to firmly believe that this is just the way I am, and people are responding to that. And that's why, I'm a victim, or people are cruel to me, or, I get into abusive relationships. It's people responding to me. And actually, I really had to kick my butt a little bit in kind of really sitting down and looking at and understanding that actually, I don't control how other people respond to me. That's their shit, not mine. But I needed to own my shit and kind of go, I am creating this by not designing who I want to be. So it was really about that redesign. It's like effectively the question, who do I want to show up as?
Yeah.
In life. Because the mask also meant that I hid from myself. And it's like, no, if I want to create the human being that I really would love to show up as every single day, then I have to take ownership of that. And not pretend that I'm constantly afraid of what other people might say or do or think in response to meeting me and being with me or connecting with me, because I don't have enough power to control how they might respond.
Interesting you say that you pretend, about pretending to be afraid of that.
Did I say that?
Yeah. You said that.
That's something to reflect on.
I'm just curious. I mean, if I heard it right, I'm curious as to what how that works for you. I thought I heard you say how you pretending to be afraid of what other people think, essentially.
Yes, it was really about how I treated myself.
Right.
So I was really afraid of what I thought.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't really about other people, because those were the things that I thought about myself, that I'm not good enough and I don't know how to human and all of those things. That they weren't from other people.
The old projection switcheroo.
That's the one. on.
Yeah. Well, that nicely leads on to my second one.
Fabulous.
So what stops me being myself? What am I afraid will happen? As another question to ask. What stops me? What am I afraid will happen?
Mm-hmm.
Basically just everything you said, really. Is yeah. I mean, I know in my experience it's been, like rejection. They'll hate me. They'll stop talking to me, etc. And this was the big thing that, I think I said this at the start, but the big thing that came up for me with this whole thing was I thought, well, I don't think I ever really wore a mask. I mean, in my head, the stereotype was me walking around pretending to be someone else all the time. And actually that wasn't it. My experience was just feeling like I was holding myself back at certain points, that I was not, maybe sharing my opinion, or not, I don't know, not being a certain way. I like maybe I should be more enthusiastic at a certain point, or I should be more engaging, or I should be able to be more, whatever it is or was for the context, right? Yeah, it was more that than it was about, I suppose, completely pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And so therefore what came up for me when I was like, well, what am I afraid would happen? It was things like, well, they'd reject me, that they wouldn't accept who I. But really, again, exactly what you talked about. It's actually about my own stuff. Like, I wasn't entirely comfortable with that aspect of myself, or I wasn't entirely how do I put it? I wouldn't stand by that aspect of myself, knowing that I'd be okay if they did leave, or if they did fuck me off, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I get that. The little game, the little head game.
Always.
So I'm wondering which one I should go with next.
Have your 17 points.
14?
14. Close.
Yes. Because I was going to go with experiment. Yeah, so I'm going to go with is be gentle with yourself.
Tell me more.
In a way, that was the whole reason that the mask was there. Because I was a bitch to myself. And it was like, because again, it wasn't really about the experience of other people. It was more what I did to myself after I had an experience. So in all of that, it was really about how can I change that experience? And the only way to really change that experience is to be gentle and compassionate. Because I felt like I had to have the mask on because people were harsh with me. But actually what I realized in doing the process was that I was harsh with me. And what I needed to swap that to was, what would it be like if I was gentle and I treated myself with kindness? How would I feel differently then? What would I see differently then? And it was in that process that I was slowly able to sidestep the mask every now and again and really just hold that gentleness and kind of go, it's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay if in the middle of it you suddenly need to put your mask back on. All of those things are okay. So if I could hold myself there, then no matter what happens, I know that I'll make it okay. And I think previously it was because I wanted other people to make it okay, and they would only do that if I appeared a certain way. It was my kind of thinking around it. But that wasn't the case. It was more a case of I needed to approach myself gently and not sort of do the thing where it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, stop doing that. Like, because that never seemed to work, but I kept doing it. So yeah, it's there for a reason. Like, if you're wearing a mask right now, you've put it on for a reason. So like, be okay with that. And then your relationship with the mask might start to change.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's observing, like, I'm being differently here than how I might want to be. But then there's the attitude to that. There's what we make it mean, and then there's how we approach it. If it's like a fuck's sake, you useless bastard, might not be as effective in changing as a more curious, positive, and caring frame, as it were.
Yeah. Because who wants to change when somebody's kind of on their back going, do it now, stop doing this. Like, that's never really been effective for me. And that was one of the reasons that I put the mask on in the first place. It's because I had experiences like that. So I wanted to be the person that wouldn't provoke that in other people. So the fact that I then spoke to myself like that and treated myself like that meant that obviously I kept that mask on.
Yeah, well, I often say to clients, like, do you do well when someone shouts at you and has a go at you when they want you to change something? And inevitably they tend to be like, no. I'm like, exactly. You ever considered it might not be a great strategy for yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting that. 'Cause I say that to a lot of people. So, yeah.
Thing is, though, I know, I didn't even realise I used to be hard on myself. And there are still times I can be hard on myself and I don't even notice it at times. Someone else has to point it out. Often you.
It's okay, I'll charge you later.
But that's like, I think it can come across, I don't know about you, but in my experience, it can be, because I've seen it happen with clients. Like, I'm so tuned to it now, I can hear it in language and tone. And just when someone's describing their experience, even if they're not saying, I'm such a fucking idiot, just in the way they talk about it, the language they use, I can hear it's like that's a judgmental way of looking at it. There's a kindness gap there. And sometimes when I say, like, you're quite hard on yourself, people will say, oh yeah. But there are times when people are like, well, no, not really. I don't think so. And it's like, really? But they don't see it. They don't notice it. So yeah, you got to have the awareness first, I guess.
Yeah, and that's seems to be the running thread for some reason throughout all episodes.
Well, yeah, it's like I always say to my clients when I'm working with them, it's like the awareness piece for me always comes first, because if you can't see it, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even with self-love and kindness, right? If you don't know who you're hugging, you can't hug them.
That's why I just hug myself.
But at least you know where you are. You know who you're hugging.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah. For me, that formed the basis of every change. Just awareness. Just knowing that I was doing something. Because, yeah, did I know I was wearing a mask? I don't know, 15 years ago? No, I didn't. I just thought I was being who I was because that's all I knew. All I did experience was that life wasn't working for me. Mm. And I was very unhappy. But yeah, it takes that awareness to really understand what I'm actually doing, because it's serving a purpose, right? At that point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think the more I think about it, my mask wearing actually came out a lot as me just shooting myself. So I would be however I was in the moment. Mm-hmm. And then I might be doing it in the moment, actually, but especially afterwards, I'd be like, I should have been like this. I should have been able to do that. I should have been able to be different. So, in a way, it's like, then, was I wearing a mask, or have I just created the perception I'm wearing a mask because I think I should be different?
Mm.
Not too
much. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. Oh my God.
I feel a pontific tangent coming.
Yeah, that could be a deep rabbit hole right there.
My favourite. Well, my third one. Who or where am I most comfortable, and what makes the difference?
Mm-hmm. Nice, like that.
And the reason I picked that one is because I do find comparisons helpful. And I know we've talked about this offline, because you see a lot on the internet. People say, like, you shouldn't compare, you shouldn't compare. And honestly, I think that's fucking bollocks. I think comparison can be really helpful. I think if it's comparison so that, to the end of, see, I'm not good enough, or see, I'm useless, or whatever, which I am well trained in, got a lot of past experience in that. I don't think that's useful, no. But for me to be able to compare, to then go, well, what's the difference that makes the difference? Like, why is that different? how come I can be like that there, but I can't do that there? That for me is invaluable. The same way, like if I'm ever learning something, whether it's to do with music, or it's learning something about coaching or whatever. If I'm seeing somebody who does something different to me, or even arguably better than me, I could take the view, well, there's something special about them and I'm just rubbish, as a comparison. Or I could take it with the curiosity of, okay, well, how? Like, because I wouldn't do it that way, or I'm not able to do that. How is that different? And that, in terms of comparison, I find really helpful, because otherwise, it almost shows me possibility.
Yeah.
Right? If I can see it can be done differently, well, that gives me a possibility. My brain might not have even dreamt that up until I saw it in the real world.
Yeah.
So for me, coming back to it, like, who and where am I most comfortable, and what makes that difference? If I can look at the context, like, where can I be myself? Where am I happiest being? And this really landed for me when I started to notice, like, do you know what? I like who I show up as a coach and therapist. I really like that. Really then helped me to be like, well, what stops me being like that around my friends, or around, and not actually necessarily bringing the whole, like,
Yeah.
trying to therapize my friends, as it were, but being like, well, what's different about the way I show up here? How am I actually being? What are those qualities that I might want to take elsewhere?
I really like that, because one of mine was actually self-inquiry.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's just like I think, well, like I said before, it was a slow process. It really took a lot of getting to know myself. And I would say that it's more recent where I feel a lot more okay. Kind of just going, well, this is just who I am now, because this is who I choose to be. Yeah, and similar to you, kind of just being like, okay, what's the difference in different spaces? Because then it's the thing of, I'm changing myself within certain spaces and environments. It's not, because again, I don't control the outcome. And I feel like sometimes it's easier to put my mask on in a place where I totally feel like I don't control the outcome in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't know how people are going to respond to me. So then I might put on a bit of a pleasing mask or not be too. And I think because of the people pleasing stuff, the mask often is a lot around being compliant. Just doing what people want me to do. But the other sense that the mask has kind of come off in is being able to talk to my true self. I think that's the biggest change I've seen. And that was the reason of the mask in the first place. Again, it's that thing of, I can't share my truth with people because they won't be able to receive it. And it's not okay to do that. And that has been a real experimentation of just doing that and seeing what happens. And I guess reminding myself in that moment that it's not the other person that's going to make me okay. It's me and my okayness with what I'm sharing, as opposed to them needing to make it okay for me. And I guess it's that remembering in the moment that really helps me to kind of go, I don't need them to make it okay, not okay. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It's an interesting point, because what I started to recognize was, in some ways, I was more open with some of my clients about how I saw the world than I was necessarily with people who I'd call my friends. And I think that was because on some level I was like, I know I'm okay if they disagree with me, as in my clients. Like I know I'm okay if there's a problem, and if for whatever reason, like, I did stop working with a client because things didn't work out so well, then I knew that I had experience of being like, well, I know I'm okay, and actually that's not really about me. So that made me then even more capable of just being more myself. And so then that made me question then, well, what if I start doing that with my friends? Like, what am I afraid will happen? Well, the fear is I might upset them and never talk to me again. The question is that real? Is that true? And if I'm hiding a load of stuff, or if I feel like I'm hiding a load of stuff, do they really know me?
Yeah, right. That's another rabbit hole.
Well, I do think like if there are large parts of ourselves that we feel we're holding back, especially that it's where it's not out of choice, where it's out of fear and stuff that we're not okay with, that we haven't made peace with. I do think it makes us feel disconnected from those people, because there's something in us that says like, yeah, but they don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And inevitably for me that does create, it has to create distance of some magnitude, because there's always that bit that says, yeah, but they don't know that bit.
Yeah. Which for me used to be part of the game almost.
Right.
Because it's like, well, I definitely can't show this bit, and I can't show this bit, and I can't show this bit, so then I need to mask that. But then part of that was also a control thing.
Right.
So I guess the mask can serve its purpose in lots of different ways.
Playing the puppet master.
Yes. Yes. Because I guess part of it is the thing, assumption. It's like, who am I to say that this, like, you can't handle this part of me? That's like,
Oh yeah.
that's the. So I think it has a lot of different aspects to it.
Trying to take autonomy from somebody else, like you don't trust them.
Yes.
To handle you.
Yes, I am telling you that I cannot show you this part of me because you won't be able to handle it.
Mm.
So, yeah. But forever wishing that I could show that to somebody. But obviously that wasn't going to happen until I was okay with it and accepted it for myself.
Well, yeah, and I've definitely had that kind of experience before, of there being this almost paradoxical, like two-sided thing going on, where it's like part of me doesn't, like, wants to be able to share this part of me, wants to be able to be myself, but too scared to, because what if it all goes fucking wrong if I do? Yeah. And then it's like that stuckness, and I think that's because it's like, if you don't know me, I'm not going to feel fully connected. Will feel there's this gap, and that you don't fully accept me because you don't know this thing. But it's so, like, the stakes seem so high, because if I share it and it's wrong, then oh my god, I'll lose what I've got. And well, hello codependence.
Yes, hello. But actually it was another way that I held people at bay as well. It had that effect too, where it's like, I'm only going to let you in a certain amount, and then the mask is going to go on. So it's like that fear as well within me that I can't let anybody that close to me. So after my, I guess, abusive relationship, more than anything, it was like, well, I have to put on this whole barrier and I have to be a bitch. And mine was physical as well. So it was a physical kind of, the way I looked, how I did my hair, everything became my mask. And it was really like, to avoid being abused again, I'm going to really have to kind of embody this cold, hard, bitchy kind of attitude. But then that meant that in my head, I guess I pretended that I was keeping myself safe by keeping people at a distance, because I only could see certain parts of myself. So it was all quite gamey in its nature, because it was quite multifaceted.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, I even, recalling back to when I first studied as a therapist, I remember I really loved it, because it was like, oh, I've now got something that I can do, and I feel like I felt good, because I felt like I had a competence, I had a skill. But I also would use it, like, I'd be happy to do it to other people. I wasn't so happy if somebody wanted to do it to me.
Oh.
Yeah, and and I think even in the early days, like when with some friends and stuff that I was studying with, I'd be quite happy to have banter and get up in their stuff, like, what's that about? But not so happy when they did it back to me, funnily enough.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think I would definitely have bullshitted myself about it, but it was you're not coming behind the mask. Like, this is the me you're seeing, but you're not coming any further than that.
Yeah, see, that's a different way of looking at the mask, right? Because it serves a purpose.
Yeah,
It serves a
protection, isn't it?
purpose. Yeah. So it's like, make friends with it. Like, understand the purpose that it's really serving for you in the different facets that has. Because, I don't know, for me, the bottom line was a lot of it was about fear and how can I control that fear? Or kid myself that I'm controlling that fear. Are we done with our points? I don't even know.
I think just about.
Yeah, I think so.
Any closing points on being yourself, ditching the mask, unleashing your magnificence?
Yeah. The way out of darkness is to switch on the light, but the way out of fear is to switch on the love.
Boom.
Yes, drop the mic.
I suppose that the big one for me is kind of where I started. It's like, is it a mask you're wearing or is it a role you're playing? And if it's a role you're playing, is it out of choice or is it out of fear?
Lovely.
Cool. Episode 10. Ticked.
Yes.
You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit, with your TheraCoach hosts,
David Bird.
and Amy Dave.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's ami.dave.11.